My name is Bobby Clark. I am proud to be the Director of Business Development and Regulations for the Kentucky Sustainable Business Council. And I want to welcome you all here today for we hope, a good session, an interactive session. We have a number of speakers. They're going to talk for about 10 minutes and then Q&A, and then towards the end of the allotted time, we're going to have about 15 or 20 minutes to, one, ask follow-up questions, but more importantly, start getting from the participants here today some of the ideas and some of the sustainability issues that are important to you. We're going to use the whiteboard and start identifying some of the issues to get engaged with this. Heather Warman's going to come up in a minute to tell us about KySBC and our goals and what we're trying to accomplish here. I am also a co-founder of Midwest Clean Energy Enterprise. My business partner Jason DeLam in Frankfort, Kentucky. I live here in Lexington. I'm also proud to be the founder of Sustainable Business Ventures, a 501c3 nonprofit. We developed a green entrepreneur program, and we help difficult to employ individuals create their own job through self-employment using sustainable business planning ideas. I've been involved, and some of the people in the room are also involved with Bluegrass Forever Green, works with Bluegrass Tomorrow, and we're trying to establish, in the process of establishing, an organization like the Louisville Sustainability Council and the Green Umbrella up in northern Kentucky, Cincinnati area, for the 18 counties in central Kentucky. I've been proud to be involved in the rebuilding of West Liberty that was destroyed by a tornado 3 years ago. And we're embarking upon a plan, working with the community to raise money to build 4 net zero homes for low-income people that were displaced by the tornado. And proud that our project has been accepted by the Clinton Global Initiative as a commitment to action. They don't give you any money, but it's a great networking organization. And we have been networking quite significantly to help us raise this. Proud of the work that we're doing, and some of the people in the room are involved in this. The Nulu is a part of Louisville on East Market Street, going to establish an eco-district. It's like Portland, Oregon, other places around, a few places around the country. Very progressive for a state like Kentucky. We have been involved with the Kentucky and formed the Kentucky College and University Carbon Consortium, and most recently in December formed the Unlimited Carbon Assistant Network, UCAN, which is actually an L3C corporation. Now, how many people have heard of L3C? Okay, well, only about 11 states, maybe a little fewer than that, have legislation. It's like an LLC, but instead of profit as your mission, mission is your mission. So you identify, you organize, and focus on how to make things happen. And we're proud to be involved in one of the first, it's a Vermont corporation because Kentucky doesn't have that law, but we're proud to be working with Harvard University as our client, and looking forward, and Robert Chatham's on our team to work with us. So we're going to get started. Heather, are you about ready? Okay. I wanted to introduce Heather. Heather is the Executive Director of the Kentucky Environmental Foundation since January of 2014, and she serves as KEF's Executive Director. She's been a proponent of green building initiatives in Kentucky since 2000. Prior to KEF, she was actively involved in areas of nonprofit management, including the American Red Cross, Habitat for Humanity. Heather is highly knowledgeable and speaks regularly on topics such as green building, sustainable design, recycling, reuse, and much more. She's served on the board of the Home Builders Association. Maybe that's why this was a logical place for Heather to ask. And actually chaired the Home Builders Association Green Council, and was the 2012 chair of the Midwest Energy Conference. She currently serves as the education liaison for the U.S. Green Building Council. With that, proud to introduce Heather Warman.
Good morning. And I was sitting behind Bobby listening as he was talking, and I was thinking there are a lot of organizations and there are a lot of things going on right now. So I appreciate very much you taking time to come this morning. And part of what we wanted to talk about in the beginning was, why should you be here? Why should you be here and in some of the other organizations that you've heard mentioned today? Why the Kentucky Sustainable Business Council is unique. Right now, I would say that our only real competition are chambers in terms of business organizations that are advocating for business practices and actively working in Frankfurt when it's time for the work to be done on policies and change. There is currently no other organization statewide that does this for businesses, especially small businesses. More importantly, this organization is linked with the American Sustainable Business Council. That is a national organization, and at the end of a few slides that I'm going to show you, there's going to be a quick video that's going to introduce to you the American Sustainable Business Council. Why is that relevant? That's relevant because it begins to give Kentucky a national voice outside of here that's connected to over 200,000 organizations already throughout the United States. They are based in Washington, D.C., so they're based in the center of our government where we need them. And we will become a filter for that organization. So we will not always follow every single thing that American Sustainable Business Council is doing. It might not be relevant to Kentucky. Our membership is going to determine what's important to us. Who is engaged in this organization and what they care about, and the policies that affect those members are going to be the things that we focus on in Kentucky. So a lot of organizations, and USGBC, the United States Greenbelt Council, is one of them. I was having this conversation before we started. Have a national branch and a state branch. And then again, people are sort of double tasked with joining both and then getting communications from both. We're trying to do this very differently. The KySBC is going to be the filter for the national organization. If you have time to look more what's going on with the national organization and you want to engage in that, you can, and you can bring it back to this organization. But we're going to really focus together, and at the end of today, you're going to get a legislative wrap-up of what we just did this year in Frankfurt. We're going to give you sort of the idiot's guide to what we feel was important or impactful to businesses in terms of sustainability in the state of Kentucky, and we're going to talk about those things. After we talk about them, we're going to talk to the group and see what everyone here feels is relevant. If they feel everything we've sort of selected as a steering committee is relevant, then we're going to move forward on those issues into next legislative session. Obviously, we don't quite yet know what our 2016 platform is entirely going to be because new bills will come out, new things will be introduced in the next session. As we get to those things, we will make internal group decisions about how we want to move forward. I don't think it's a shocking surprise to anyone here that recently I just watched a video about participatory democracy and the fact that if 100% of the people care about an issue, that 100% of people would probably think it would pass into a law, right? Only that's not the case, right? And also, if nobody cares about the issue, how likely is it to pass into law? It might be interesting to find out that for both instances, both nobody cares or both everybody wants it, it's about a 30% probability that it will become a law of some kind. What really drives the law, I'm sure everybody knows the answer to this, it's only one word: money. So, and then the money has to be lobbied, it has to be advocated in the right directions in order to drive the policy change. So what does that mean for this group as well? That means the best chance we ever have of making sure that we have some sustainable policies in the state of Kentucky, that we have renewable energy, that we have energy efficiency, that we have bottom line saving policies for businesses implemented in this state, is that we all band together, we consolidate our resources, and we get to Frankfurt, and we put the money where it needs to be to make things happen. Because we have a presence. Because, and when I say money, I don't necessarily mean that all of you have to spend money to do this. Every one of you here owns a business. Your business brings economic development dollars and income to the state of Kentucky. Those numbers are highly important to our politicians, especially when they're pooled together. So, I should have already prepared better today and had the small business statistics for Kentucky, but most of the people in this room probably already know that the major source of economic development in Kentucky is small businesses. So we have some large corporations, but for the most part, the core of our state is economically driven by small business owners, just like all of you in this room. So when we put our resources together and when we work together and think together and focus on things together, we will see sustainable policy change in Kentucky. So that is why, go ahead and just come on in. That is why this group is so vitally important. In January, we had a really successful meeting in Louisville. We didn't talk a lot about what we were doing or who we were, because to be honest, we're going to figure that out together as we grow over this next year, 2, 5 years. And how we connect to ASBC, the American Sustainable Business Council, is really going to be group driven. They have a tremendous platform. They have some tremendous company partners. People like Seventh Generation, Eileen Fisher, Civil Arrest, large companies, Method Products are all members of the American Sustainable Business Council. Even organizations like Toyota have joined on with them. So they're much larger than we are, but that's a good connectivity point for us. The other thing it gives us is when we have op-eds or when we have media here, they will also share that nationally on their platforms. So I just had Oksana helped me put together just a few slides as well to just explain to you sort of who we are, where we're coming from, and I'm not going to read everything to you, but I do want to sort of touch on what is sustainability, because a lot of different people have a lot of different definitions for it. The premise for the Kentucky Sustainable Business Council and what we want to always focus on is that we are meeting the needs of today without compromising the ability of our future generations to meet their needs. So we need, and in Kentucky, that doesn't really happen very often right now, in a state that wants to mine everything we have and use it for power. We're not thinking very sustainably. We don't look at our resources in terms of what can we have in 100 years, what can we have in 200 years. We're still focusing very heavily in Kentucky on what can we have tomorrow. And in fact, we're going backwards in a lot of ways. At the chamber conferences I've attended this year, and just recently at the manufacturers conference that I was at, it's always shocking to me to hear all of our politicians saying we need more coal every meeting I go to, and I'm always like thinking to myself, it's shocking that this is continuing to go on because it's a depleting resource for this state. And yet it's all they platform at their conferences. So you can imagine you're a busy professional, you take one conference a year that you can take time to go to and pay for. You have no time to deal with politics. You have no time to find out what's going on in Frankfurt. You trust your organization to bring you information, just like this organization will. And then you go and all you hear is that there's a war on coal and that's our biggest problem in Kentucky. Blindly, many of these people just believe that, because they don't have time for anything else. Small business owners are working their businesses 80 hours a week, or more. Typically, every minute of your day that you're awake, you're working your business when it's a small business and you own it. So we have a real dramatic shift that needs to happen in Kentucky. And this organization is going to do that. And we are all going to do it together. And they already know we exist, and they already know we're working on it. They're a little nervous, so that's good. The KySBC, you guys can read all this. We have a fabulous website. It's just kysbc.org. We also have a Facebook page that gets updated regularly we try as much as we can to highlight especially local business activities, things that are going on. We like to champion our members. So if you've had some energy efficiency savings that you want to share, if you've had something for your company you want to share, please send it to us. We will post it on the website and on Facebook page. You can link your logo to our website. Once you're a member, the logo goes up as a partner page. So we do a lot of communicating with that, and we also have Twitter. So please find us in all those things and read on your own so I don't waste everyone's time. So we want to sustain the environment and the economy. We want to educate all of you on the policies and things that are going on in Kentucky in a very quick, succinct way every year so that you don't have to spend a lot of time running through 300 bills, 300 things. You can just come to the meeting and we're going to give you the most concise information we can. We want to connect businesses to network with advocacy opportunities that promote just, sustainable policies in the Commonwealth. What we do, we advocate, we've already talked about that. We're going to have educational events just like the one we're having today. And then we want to promote a sustainable economy at all times. And that includes, it's important I think this last comment, that we share prosperity, that we protect our environment, and that we incorporate social justice in the things that we are propagating in policy change. To get involved, you guys all have an application in the little packet on the front of your in front of you. There's a free membership, okay? We will need money eventually, you know, if we really want to drive big change. But more importantly to us is allowing this information to be given for free to any business that wants to have it, and for you to be engaged in what's going on. So there's no reason not to join because it's free. We're not going to bombard you with things. The communications we send out, we're not going to send out more than 2 or 3 action alerts a month, just to keep you apprised of what's going on. The list will not be sold. You will not get ASBC national information unless you go on their website and sign up for that. We're not going to share those things. So quickly,
could we do something in a matter of time? Let's move this to the beginning of our kind of work session to introduce it.
Okay, that's what we'll do. So we will watch the American Sustainable Business Council video at the end so that you guys can sort of see what it's about. It's just a 2.5-minute video, but it's really well done. And I think that it also will predicate sort of what we're going to try to do here in this state. So we will get started because we have a lot of great information that we want you guys to be able to absorb while you're here. And like Bobby said, there's coffee, there's water, there's tea. In the cooler there are fruit sodas, ginger ales, so help yourself. Food will be here closer to 11:30.
Yeah, we call it Scott's. It's reading.
All right, thank you so much, Heather. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Scott Maas. Scott is a Rural Energy Coordinator and Business Cooperative Specialist for the United States Department of Agriculture. I'm very pleased to work with Scott. Our company helps companies supply and submit grant applications, which he's going to tell you about the opportunities. But I do want to say that I've worked with a lot of government officials and a lot of very good people out there. But Scott just goes beyond the call of duty, and I've really been proud to work with him, and pleased to call him my friend.
Thanks. Good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Scott Maas. I'm the Rural Energy Coordinator for Rural Development. Bobby asked me to come today to basically go over 2 programs that we administer through my office. And basically our main objective with Rural Development is job creation. We want to create jobs either through small businesses or larger businesses, or through energy savings, or a variety of different things. So the programs I'm going to talk to today are the Rural Energy for America program, or REAP program, or the BNI, the Business and Industry Guaranteed Loan Program. These are both programs that are there to help with small businesses or larger businesses with their development, expansions, and job creation. So make sure I can get this to move forward.
Need you to go down.
Down. There we go. Okay, so the REAP program, very quickly, and again, this is just a very quick overview of the program. I could spend an hour and a half on this, but I know there's a lot of information today. But basically, the REAP program is there for assist ranchers, farmers, and small businesses with any type of energy efficiency upgrades or renewable energy projects. It's a grant program and a guaranteed loan program, and it goes directly to the applicant, which is unique. It's the wrong way. To be eligible under this program, you basically, the business itself has to be located in a small rural community. It has to be in a population of 50,000 or less. So Fayette County's not eligible, Jefferson County's not eligible, Northern Kentucky up near Covington, etc. is not eligible. And there's city of Owensboro and Bowling Green are not eligible. Anywhere else in the state is eligible for this program. The business also has to meet SBA definition as a small business, and that's tied to their NAICS code. It's either tied to their number of employees or tied to their total gross income. And if there's a question there, you just contact us and we'll be happy to process that and determine if it's eligible or not. We can basically do any type of energy efficiency upgrade, renewable energy, as long as it's commercially available, as long as it's technically feasible, and that the business itself has the ability to control and maintenance the project as we move forward. What it will allow, the program will basically allow a grant for 25% of your total eligible project cost. So you can see here for renewable, minimum grant amount is $2,500 up to a $500,000 grant or $2 million project. Energy efficiency, minimum grant of $1,500 up to $250,000 or $1 million project. We also have a guaranteed loan program. This is a program where we work with commercial lenders as a third party. We basically guarantee the loan with that lender, and that allows the lender really to go outside of their norm when it comes to their financial covenants, etc. We can go into a $25 million project with the REAP program. And this can be tied to large solar projects, methane digesters, variety of different things, biomass, wood burn, boiler systems, electric generation, whatever it might be. But we can guarantee the program. And again, the guarantee allows the lender basically to go outside the norm. We can go into 30 years on real estate, up to 15 years on useful life of the equipment, 7 years on working capital. We only require that the applicant put 25% equity into the project, cash into the project. So they could have a tangible net worth of 5%. But as long as they put 25% into the project, they would be eligible for this program. Deadlines for the program, for the REAP program, we just had our first round in April 30th that just passed. Our next deadline is June 30th. That's for the grant or the combo applications. And then for the guaranteed loan only is August 1st. Now this program is open year round. We accept applications throughout the year. It does allow us to review the application, make sure it's eligible, complete. We notify the applicant at that point, and they can proceed with their project at their own risk at that time. They don't have to wait until the grant's awarded or until it's acknowledged. So this allows them to move forward. So we do accept applications year round, and I would encourage applications throughout the year. This year we have roughly about $2.2 million in grant funds available. I will tell you that I'm already oversubscribed with this program. This is a competitive program. I'm expecting to have grants well in excess of $2.5 million for the year. But with that being said, we're still going to fund 75–80% of our applications, which is great. I'm going to give you some quick examples of what we're doing throughout in the last few years. Again, these are just quick examples. This is a lighting retrofit for a manufacturing facility down near Corbin. Again, you can see the amounts, etc. But again, about 2.5-year return on investment, about 57–58% savings. Lighting is your low-lying fruit for this program. If you're using old incandescent lights, whatever it might be, lighting is basically a no-brainer. It scores well. It will compete well with the grant competitive nature program. This is a small family grocery store in eastern Kentucky, which went in and put LED lighting in their coolers, and also went in and did a heat recovery system. And you can see about 63% energy savings, and get a return on investment about 4 years. This is Frankfurt Capitol Plaza. If you've been to Frankfurt, dealt with anything over there, you're very familiar with the hotel there. They went in and did a complete lighting retrofit. Again, a very 2.9-year return on investment. Again, very quick return. This is a small business over in Bourbon County. Basically, they went in and did a hybrid system. This is on the new construction where they went in and put solar and also a geothermal unit into their facility. And basically, we helped them with the new construction and the paying for the installation of those units. Solar right now is very hot, if you excuse the term pun there. But we have a lot of solar projects right now, a lot of applications, especially in western Kentucky with TVA. But we're starting to see it come in central Kentucky and northern Kentucky, even the eastern part of the state. Solar is starting to come down with return on investments to get down in a reasonable period, 10–15 years, with all the incentives and rebates, etc. that are out there. Without those, you're still looking at a 20–25-year return on investment. But of the applications I have right now, probably 75% are solar. So it's very popular right now. We do a lot of ag-related projects, and I'll just mention these real quick. A grain dryer. We did numerous grain dryers throughout the state. Dairy operations, replacing lighting, fan system, ventilation systems, milking systems, etc. Greenhouses, we're starting to see a lot of interest in greenhouses, either using wood boiler systems as heating sources or for upgrades with ventilation systems or thermal curtains, stuff of that nature. Poultry is very popular too. We're seeing we have a lot of poultry farms in the western part of the state doing a lot of energy efficiency upgrades there, a variety of different things, lighting, insulation, control systems, etc. So basically, I'm the primary contact information for the REAP program. There's my contact information. Go over the B&I program just very quickly. This is a separate program, and again, it's a guaranteed loan program where we're basically working with a commercial lender. This can be worked in conjunction with the REAP program, so we can work with the B&I program and the REAP program together. This is primarily for any type of growth or expansion, refinancing, whatever they might want with a business. It doesn't have to meet a small business criteria. It can be a larger business. It just has to be in a rural area. We can go into a $25 million project with this again. And here's basically what we're doing as our guaranteed percentages based on the size of the loan, and also again, what the guaranteed loan allows us to do is the terms, really extend terms, hopefully get a better rate for the borrower, and a variety of different things. Help the lender get past their lending limitations they might have or capital requirements that they might have with the bank. So this is a program that's very active, and then there's some advantages to the lender there. A couple examples. Color Point is a large greenhouse facility in Bourbon County. We've done some financing there. And then we've done a lot regarding senior assisted living facilities, manufacturing facilities, a variety of different things throughout the state. We're very open to anything, as long as it's not a golf course, it's not illegal gambling or anything like that, we can look at it through the B&I program. We have about a $25 million allocation at the state level, and then we can go to the national pool. I think 3 years ago, our max was we financed well over $80 million in Kentucky. So this is a very popular program. And there's our contact information for the B&I program. And we're all here in Lexington, but we basically handle the whole state.
We're going to take a couple of quick questions. One I want to ask, I know working with Scott at some point, isn't there some opportunity under certain circumstances that a ag-related project could be funded in one of the communities that is not 50,000?
Yes, if it, depending on if it's an ag basis, we can qualify it as an ag producer, then they can actually be located in an urban area. But we have to show that they're an ag producer, and that means that basically they're on their federal tax returns, they're showing at least 50% of their gross income coming from the farm directly, from production from the farm. Yes, ma'am.
Does that go through K-Card?
K-Card is they're actually a nonprofit independent that we basically help finance through some other grants that they have been awarded. But K-Card's an excellent source. They'll help you through the process. They'll walk you through it. They won't actually write the grant for you or write the application, but they'll review it and make sure that you're eligible, etc. In your packets, there's a fact sheet on both the B&I program and the REAP program, and then also a list of grant writers and energy auditors. The REAP program does require an audit. It's going to require someone to come out, an independent third party, to do an assessment on the energy use. And then we don't require grant writers. We do recommend it just due to the complexity and the competitive nature of the program.
And K-Card and
K-Card
Governor's Office of Ag Policy also has some other programs. I know that K-Card, we worked on a value-added producer grant that USDA does, and there's a new round for 30 days to do that. And K-Card wrote the business plan, and we helped write the application for an orchard down in western Kentucky. One more question.
Scott, do you do any outreach or marketing to make kind of farms, ranches aware of the existence of the system?
Oh yes, I mean we've done numerous outreach meetings with our sister agency FSA, with GOAP, with I've probably spoke 20-30 times just in the last year and a half. And as I said earlier, we're oversubscribed. Right? This is a very competitive program. We're getting more apps than we can fund in the state, and when you compare that to our southern region, we're very unique in Kentucky. Most states are using the funds at all. So we're very unique in Kentucky. But yes, we do quite a bit. Yes, ma'am.
So on the brochure, and I heard you say a town of 50,000 people or less. Is that like really hard? What if it's a town that's got 52 or 55,000? Is it hard?
We have a website that you can actually go in and put the actual address of the property, and it will tell you directly if it's in an eligible area or not. The main areas that you're going to have problems are Jefferson County, Fayette County, completely not eligible, and up in northern Kentucky. But everywhere else, in most cases, 90% of the time, they're going to be eligible.
All right, and so thank you, Scott, so much. When we get to the Q&A, Scott won't be here, but I have spent a good bit of time with Scott, and we'll be happy to answer additional questions that may come up. I am going to go a little out of order in the agenda, and I'm going to call on Jonathan Miller to come next. Jonathan served 2 terms as our Kentucky State Treasurer. He was Secretary of Finance and Administration under our current governor, Steve Beshear. While Jonathan was Secretary, one of the projects that I noticed, even though we've known each other for more years than we like to count, was he started a green bank using some federal stimulus money, put a bank together to help state agencies apply for and get money to do some retrofit and energy efficiency projects that then would be paid back to this revolving fund. It was a great program. Jonathan also served as Deputy Chief of Staff at the U.S. Department of Energy under President Clinton. He was Legislative Director to U.S. Congressman Jim Cooper, and he was a long-term aide to Vice President Al Gore. While in public office, Jonathan oversaw much of the legal framework of state government, including the state's procurement, financial management, technology, and he also had the national recognized efforts in energy efficiency, transparency, pension reform, and reinventing government. Now, Jonathan is also a frequent guest on national media circuit, including CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, CBS This Morning, Dateline, NBC, NPR, The Daily Show. I actually watched that recently. That was a very fun segment. And he also writes for The Daily Beast and The Recovering Politician. But I'm going to say one more thing about Jonathan. I'm proud to be working with Jonathan on West Liberty. I told you at the beginning about rebuilding West Liberty. And Jonathan is actively involved, and I mentioned the Clinton Global Initiative Commitment to Action. And it was because of his contacts that we began to network and find the opportunities to leverage that opportunity. So it gives me great pleasure to call on Jonathan Miller.
Bobby, but if Bobby was truly a friend, he would have mentioned my contacts with the Clinton Foundation. I have nothing to do with that. Hi, I'm Jonathan, and I'm a recovering politician. I might be recovering a little bit more this morning than I normally after last night and I guess the last 2 weeks. A brilliant reminder about why I'm glad not to be in politics anymore. And so glad to be here. And I was state treasurer, but you've got a real treasure here in Bobby Clark, who's has more energy than the type that we can generate out of any of our energy efficiency projects. So you're really lucky to have him as your leader. I actually have brought my intern this week to join me today. My daughter Emily, who's a rising senior at Miami, Ohio. Emily was the one who, when she was growing up, reminded me to always recycle things and turn off the lights and unplug the gadgets. And really, it's that generation that we're working with. And I just am excited that she's able to come this morning. Now that she's a grown-up, for any of you watching the campaigns, people think my daughters are still 3 and 5 years old. I'm an empty nester. Bobby talked to you a little bit about our green bank on the state level, and what I'm talking to you about today kind of arises from that, or it's a natural progression. I obviously do not need to preach about energy efficiency to this crowd. You already know that it is an extraordinary way for businesses to save dollars. It is a way to protect the environment in ways that even friends of coal and tree huggers can agree on. And it is a jobs creating program in that we're creating a whole new industry of jobs that you can't outsource to India and China that are good paying jobs and highly technical jobs, 21st century jobs. And so I was really pleased when I joined the Bashir administration that when the governor came up with his comprehensive energy strategy, position number one was energy efficiency, and they made big goals for it, and then the governor took broad action, and we have some of the most progressive high performance building standards in the country. We have seen legislation passed that has promoted energy performance contracting in our schools and in our public buildings. And then, as Bobby mentioned, we started a green bank using some stimulus dollars from the Obama stimulus to create a revolving loan fund, because the challenge of energy efficiency for many is that we all know that once you get started, energy efficiency pays for itself in terms of the energy savings generated, but the challenge is coming up with the dollars to get things started. With the Green Bank, we were able to provide a revolving loan fund so that state agencies could borrow money from that fund and then pay it back through energy savings. And it's working great, and we've seen a lot of progress on the state level. Our hope was that we would then take that program, take money from the next stimulus package, take money from the next several state budgets, and make that larger, bring that to local government, to bring that to private business. And as you were aware, we started in 2008. 2008 was not a great year to start getting money, and there wasn't a second stimulus. And so while the program remains great on the state level, there still is the need for private folks to be able to find that initial burst of cash and to be able to start this process going. So we took a look after I got out of government, and I've been out for 40 years, and I should get a chip at my next meeting every time I'm out. We took a look at what 31 other states are doing, and they call the program PACE, Property Assessed Clean Energy. And PACE in these 31 states, it's a relatively new program, but it's been honed over the past several years. Allows building owners to access a multi-billion-dollar private financing market of people who understand this. Use that money as the first way of being able to get the capital to do the energy improvements. And then to be able to pay back that loan, that financing, through the property tax assessment. The property tax assessment is really beneficial for a number of reasons. First of all, it's very convenient. You're able to take your energy savings from your utility bills that year and just pay an extra line on your property tax at the end of the year. So it's transparent, it's convenient. It also stays with the property. One of the big challenges with energy efficiency loans is that payback periods generally can be anywhere from 5 to 20 years, 20 years on the most complicated projects. And many building owners are concerned that, am I going to own my property 10 years from now? Do I want to have this liability that I'm going to be paying even if I sell my property? With it being on the property tax, it stays with the property. And so it gets passed on to the next owner, becomes part of the purchase. That also gives the lenders a lot of confidence that if a certain building owner goes under, that their loan will continue to be repaid by whoever picks up the next property. In addition, what PACE does is it allows the lender to have a priority lien, so it becomes the first thing that gets paid back in the case of a bankruptcy. So this is a wonderful program that is bipartisan. It was in a number of very red states as well as blue states, and we wanted to introduce it to Kentucky and get the legislature to consider it. And so last year, 2014, we started our meetings. And the first thing we realized was we couldn't use the word PACE. We had two problems with the word PACE. I didn't see you over there, John. How you doing? Speaking of ESCOs. For one, PACE is a program here in central Kentucky that involves preservation of farmland, which is a controversial program and rings some bells. But worst of all, as I mentioned, Property Assessed Clean Energy uses the word clean energy. And all of you in the room understand that clean energy is part of the war on coal. Or at least some people in parts of the state and in the legislature feel that clean energy is part of the war on coal. So we came up with a different name, and we are calling it Energy Project Assessment Districts, ePADs. And fortunately, to this point, Apple has not sued us for trademark infringement. The second problem was, I mentioned, it's on the property tax. And so anytime you were that three-letter word is a four-letter word in Frankfurt, there was great concern that, oh, we're raising taxes on people. Oh, this is a public program that's going to be using public dollars. Oh, we're worried that the cities and counties that participate in the program are going to be on the hook if something happens, if there's a bankruptcy or someone doesn't make their payments. None of that's true. The local government works merely as a conduit. The local government simply has two functions. Number one, in order to create an ePAD district, the local government has to pass an ordinance. And number two, we've got to figure out a way to get it on that property tax bill and collect the money so that it goes from the lender to the projects, and then ultimately from the borrower back to the lender. Two simple things, and everything else is a private function. Everything else is a relationship between the private lender and the private building owner. And we went through a 2-year process of education. The first year, the House passed the bill. There was a lot of Republican opposition during that first year. Again, there were concerns about, is this a green project? Is this going to hurt the coal industry? Is this going to increase people's taxes? So it took a second year, and we met with most of the legislature. And ultimately, and overwhelmingly, the bill passed both the Senate and the House. Passed the Senate with only 1 no vote, passed the House with, I believe, only 12 no votes. And with education, people understood that this was a free market. This was a pro-business way of doing energy efficiency. We were able to convince the free market Republicans that generally when you hear about energy efficiency, you're thinking about grants, incentives, tax dollars being used to fund this. And when we were able to explain that this is a private sector program that helps businesses, it overcame all of those objections. And this year, again, it passed overwhelmingly. The bill becomes a law on June 25th, or maybe June 24th, excuse me, I forget that date. So we still have a month left before the bill becomes a law. But during this period, a whole number of cities and counties are looking into this program. And we believe that we will have some communities adopt an ordinance fairly quickly. It looks like a Bowling Green is very interested in doing this. There's a building owner in downtown Bowling Green that has been looking at this for the last couple of years as a way to be able to generate jobs and save money and help revitalize downtown, and has convinced a lot of the political leadership in Bowling Green that this is a good thing. Lexington right here is looking very seriously at it. I'm confident that it will pass ultimately. It's an ordinance passing is a convoluted process. I know some state officials are working with the city of Louisville right now on figuring out how the program is going to work there, and so on and so on. So I think that this is going to be a process where we're going to have a number of pilot programs in areas of the state, probably in the larger cities where ePAD districts are set up, and that will be, as soon as an ordinance is passed, then it comes up to you all. For those of you who are, whether you're building owners or whether you're in the energy promotion business, to start examining this, to start doing investigations of properties that could benefit from this, and then to fill out the simple application process that will be available in these cities to get this process started. A couple things to make clear: that the word district, we've got a lot of words in there that sometimes are loaded. The word district confuses some people because there's TIF districts and other kinds of special taxing districts. What we're hoping when it comes to Lexington, when it comes to Bowling Green, that the district will be the entire city, so that basically it will sweep in any property within any, let me say also, it's any industrial commercial property. This is not a single home residential program. But it will sweep in all of those. And to be also clear, just because you're in the district, just because you're in your city, doesn't mean you have to be involved. This is a voluntary program. The only people that would ever see this amount on their property tax will be the ones that were actually engaged in the projects themselves. And that was something that we had to clear up when we started this process. And so, I'm here not only because Bobby asked me, but because I really view this as an incredible opportunity for private entrepreneurship and innovation. This is not going to be, other than getting these cities to pass ordinances and create the infrastructure to allow this, this is not going to be a government program. This is going to be about you all being innovative and coming up with private sector partnerships to create these projects. It's about figuring out which commercial industrial properties need this help, getting the lender together with the ESCO or other energy savings program, with the building owner to come up with the deal in terms of the financing, and then getting things started. And it's going to be really exciting because with some of the leakiest building stock in the country here in Kentucky, we have extraordinary opportunities. And as you all know, again, energy efficiency is one of those rare win-win-wins where people are saving money and people are creating jobs. The challenge has always been with energy efficiencies, it sounds too good to be true. And so many times an ESCO will talk to a property owner and say, I'm going to save you this money, it's not going to cost you anything. And they say, sure. Lisa and I got a letter in the mail the other day, we've won a cruise. All we got to do is go to a 90-minute presentation, and at the end of the presentation we're going to get free airfare and cruise. I just found that too good to be true, so I didn't go to that presentation. And so that's the challenge with energy efficiency. It sounds to me, I'm going to give you free money. I'm going to fix up your property. It's going to be more livable, more comfortable. You're going to save money. That sounds crazy, but the fact is all of you in this room know it is true. And so what I'd like to leave you here before I take any questions is that now is the opportunity to empower you guys to act and to get this word out. I don't know how many of you, if you're all here from Lexington or from some of you from neighboring counties, it is now very ripe for you guys to start talking to your elected officials about the need for this, to talk about the challenges building owners face and to talk about how this is a win-win-win. One of our challenges are always going to be our legislation allows city officials to recoup the money and expenses that they pay out to administer this program. There's always that tension that some city officials might view this as, hey, there's a free pot of money and I want access to that. So we need to keep the pressure on to keep it the costs low while making sure that cities are recouped. We don't want to create a burden that is without a financing stream. But we don't want the administrative fees to be too high because then the 20-year payback period becomes a 30-year payback period and it no longer becomes viable. So let your city leaders know, your council people, your mayors, your county judges know that this potential is out there, and start the process of talking. If you're in the ESCO business, start talking to your clients about this opportunity. If you're in a environmental advocacy group, start talking to business owners about their ability to qualify for this program. If you're a building owner yourself, take a look. This is a great opportunity for you to find financing in a way that has not been available before. So that's it in a nutshell, and I'm happy to take questions on this, and I'll even take questions on last night, but I might not answer it.
Robert, just a real quick question. What do you see, just to kind of, the ordinance passes. Okay, the next step will be, where's the money? And what type of terms can an owner expect? You're talking fees, just kind of an idea of what you think this, based on what you know.
The first thing you will do if you're a building owner is you will ask an ESCO or some other organization to do a inspection of your property. And John Boyd is back there. John heads up the state ESCO coalition, and so he has a list of a couple dozen groups that do that kind of work. And they'll take a look at your property and tell you that that here is the need, and here are our suggested ways of going about it. Sometimes they will have a partner that does the financing. Other times they will suggest that you work with your bank or other group. At some point, this won't be immediately, but at some point, other states have created administrative programs where a lot of property owners can come together and can apply for a municipal bond kind of deal. Now that has to be, the minimum I'm told on bonding to be involved in this is $2 million. So that's not going to be a typical our owner deal, but I'm thinking a year from now in some of these early cities we'll start seeing that possibility. The cities might hire a third-party administrator to put the program together and to be able to figure out how to do that. But at the outset, during this pilot phase, it's simply identifying the person that's going to do the improvements, identifying the person to do the money, and then we'll be going to an official who will be designated the city to take the application. In Bowling Green, it's likely going to be the city clerk. In Lexington, that's something that needs to be worked out right now, but will be made public and available. And there will be a process, forms you fill out. You'll have to go and submit paperwork to show that a certified engineer has looked at the property and vouches for the savings and how the program works. But again, we're trying to keep the administrative burden as low as possible, trying to keep the bureaucracy as little as possible while maintaining protections for building owners so that they know that they're actually getting the deal that they've been promised.
I guess what I'm asking a little bit though is, does the bank have to be the city or the county?
Oh, no. So again, you will be going out to the private sector, working with a private sector business and working with private sector financing to put a deal together, and then you just apply to the city. The wrinkle on that is at some point, the city might hire, and I think this will definitely happen at some point in a city like Lexington or Louisville, and there might be some regional coalitions, and we've seen this again in other states, where there might be a third-party administrator, where you go to that third-party administrator and say, hey, can you help me? Can you identify some ESCOs? Can you identify some financing? And that third-party administrator say, well, here's a list of qualified ESCOs, and by the way, we are trying to, in your area of town, find 6 building owners to be part of a $2 million bond deal. So that might happen ultimately to make things easier. But right now, you don't need to go to anybody but the private sector. Just the city's role will be to the paperwork and to make sure that payment goes on the bill, and make sure the property tax bill, make sure that property tax bill gets into the pocket of the lender.
Aren't there some limitations on which lenders you can use, Kentucky-based?
No, actually that was a misreading of the statute.
Good.
So you can, while we encourage you to use Kentucky banks, you're not limited. Again, there will be some bond deals as well. There is one thing though that, as I mentioned before, this program gives the ePAD payment property a priority lien. So it's if there's a bankruptcy, they get paid back first. That caused some concern in Kentucky and other states among the banking industry, because the mortgage holder's like, wait a minute, does this go above my lien? So what we have done with our statute, as with most states, is it allows the current mortgage holder a right of first refusal. If that mortgage holder doesn't want this all to happen, they can say no. The good thing is, this is an improvement on the property, so it's going to be a rare case where the mortgage holder is going to say no. But the mortgage holder might say, well, if you're going to do this, I'd like to lend you the money. And so that might be a convenient way of keeping all of this work together. And we're meeting with a number of banks to explain it with them. And Kentucky Bankers Association was very involved in developing legislation, so we feel confident about that. Did I see another hand? Oh, great.
So 2 questions actually. So you said something about the property tax bill. Once the costs are determined and the engineer is certified that the project's going to do what it says it's going to do, and the city's given permission to go forward, what exactly contact happens between the PBA, the property assessment office, who's managing that money from then on, and paying your contractor to do the work? What happens there?
Well, we're working with the city of Lexington on that process right now, figuring out who does what. The way that I know that it typically works here in Kentucky is that once these applications are assigned, the PVA would put this new line into their software. The county clerk prints out the tax bills, and the sheriff collects the funds. That's the typical way. I'm not sure if that's going to be the way here in Lexington. Actually, in Bowling Green, the city clerk does all of those functions. So it's going to be different in each district. So, but again, by the time this is set up, by the time an ordinance is passed in a place like Lexington, we'll know all the details. And again, in some of these areas, we might actually have, instead of going to the city might contract out that function to a third-party administrator, and that third-party administrator will be able to explain it all to you, and we'll be able to handle all this.
And then I had a second question.
Sure.
You mentioned work that was going on in Bowling Green and in Fayette County. Can you talk a little bit about Louisville? Are you meeting with city officials, or can you give us an idea where that process is currently?
I'm actually, Maria Cotter, who's the head of sustainability for Mayor Fisher, is involved. We're actually having a meeting with her tomorrow about this. But the state energy efficiency, energy cabinet, its energy efficiency division, is already starting to talk with the city of Louisville about creating the kind of larger pilot project where there would be a third-party administrator, where there might be the possibility of municipal lining, and even seeking some federal funding to help make that all work. And again, that's all in the, we're still in the beginning phases, although it's moving quickly. I'm hopeful that your next quarterly meeting, if you'll be quarterly or annually, by the time of your next quarterly meeting, a lot of these things will start happening. I think hopefully a place like Bowling Green might already have gotten started, and places like Lexington and Louisville will be a little bit farther down the food chain. But again, I encourage you, if this sounds exciting to you, to go to your local officials and say, hey, do you know about this? If you don't, get to know about it, and feel free to use me as a resource. I know about two things these days now that I'm out of politics. I know about ePAD and hemp. And I'm not going to bore you about industrial hemp. But I can bore you as much as I can about ePAD. Yes?
Just for clarification, when the local tax collector receives that additional sum that's due on the payment for the loan, say it's $5,000 a year for 10 years or whatever it is, just for clarification, then the tax collector would then cut up that amount and then send that to the mortgage holder?
Correct. So it's just the function of whoever is doing it in the city, whether it's the sheriff, the city clerk, or some third-party administrator, is simply a pass-through. Again, in my example, the PVA puts it on the bill, the clerk prints the bill, sends it out, the sheriff collects the payment, and then the sheriff sends it right to the lender.
And then at the end of the term, the payment simply drops off. In other words,
exactly.
10-year, then that assessment or extra assessment drops off.
Exactly. For those of you that don't look at your property bills that often, because like me, it goes through my mortgage payment, so I don't look at it closely. Your property tax bill might have, it will have a few lines on it. Maybe there's a volunteer fire department that you have to pay, and something in some rural county. There'll just be another line. It'll say ePAD, and it'll say $5,000, and as soon as that's all paid off, it just disappears. John.
Jonathan, may I suggest for those people who haven't been involved in this process, and since we're just getting started in this in the state, if you'll go Google PACE, P-A-C-E, Florida is a great one to drill down on, because they've done over $1 billion worth of work in Florida with PACE, and you can get all kinds of case studies. They show you exactly where the money comes from, and in some of those projects down there were 6 lines of different sources of money, including the loan, grants like REAP, federal grants, bonds, etc. So it'll give you a real flavor for what the potential is. And from our energy industry, we believe this is potentially several $100 million worth of work over the next several years.
This is a game changer for this industry. And let me, just one caveat. Florida is one of 2 states, or it might be more. I know Florida and California do residential properties, which we don't have in Kentucky, and I want to stress that, particularly if anybody's listening upstairs, because when we always kept residential properties off of this, but the Home Builders Association had heard about horror stories about residential in other states, and so until we assured them, no, it really was not residential, they were objecting to it. So if anybody's listening upstairs, no residential.
I want to use this as an example of KySBC. We started last fall in earnest. The effort started before that, but we launched KySBC, and certainly one of the issues that our group picked to support in the legislature was this ePAD legislation. And we're excited that that's probably one of the best things that happened in the legislative session, because as Jonathan alluded to, not only is this going to be an opportunity to reduce individual businesses' cost of operation, it's going to have a profound impact on creating jobs. I mean, we've got solar installers and companies in the room here. It's going to create, we think, hundreds of green jobs, which are very important. I know that what I've always been told, that if you look at an electric bill from eastern Kentucky, even though we pay 8 to 12 cents per kilowatt hour and California pays 22 to 28 cents per kilowatt hour, our electric bills are about the same because of the inefficiency of many of our housing stock in Kentucky. So this is profound on many levels. I know the EPA has issued 111D rules, and we can talk about that later in our presentation. One of the ways to meet these new guidelines will be through energy efficiency, and could, in a significant way, begin to reduce our carbon footprint. So this is an important part of our organization's efforts, and I'm working with Jonathan and the ePAD Council, and we'll be with a meeting tomorrow with Maria, and we'll keep our group informed. One of the things, people got so excited about this so quickly that they started talking to council members and like, we want you to do that. But the questions are still, all the answers aren't there about how we're going to do it. But certainly if you have questions, please email me or Jonathan, and we'll make sure that you get the feedback. Other questions, it's an exciting opportunity. Yes, ma'am.
Is there a property assessment as part of the project that you're to determine the value of the building?
Yeah, so that is part of the project. I should have mentioned, again, in Lexington, the PVA would likely be involved. In Bowling Green, that's done at the city level. But that's one of the first steps to figure out what the property would be assessed at, so that we get all the numbers right.
And there will be issues because we know, and there's most of the people in this room, that you add energy efficiency, you add renewables, you'll actually increase the value, of that particular property. And so the PVAs are going to have to learn to adjust. Not every PVA really imputes that value into that, and banks don't always account for that value. So there's a whole lot of education that's going to be going on related to this.
Can I ask a question? Is anybody here, was anyone when they came here today unfamiliar with ePAD and its generalist terms or the name of it? And then maybe one or two?
Heard of it? No.
Okay, and then do you all feel like this is something you're going to take back to your community to tell somebody else? So is the KySBC is interested to know how important this issue is to you, and what do you think about it? Is anyone willing to speak on that?
I work with the Business Association, and so I have lots of contacts. So I'm interested to always learn, to be able to share, and also schedule speakers to come talk.
Cool.
My question was going to be, because Jonathan says anyone have questions, is why you said to those of you listening upstairs, this is more, a business thing. But what's the plans of integrating more? Is there plans for residential at some point?
There are no plans
Okay.
there's so much need for industrial commercial right now. In my personal hope that this program explodes and people see the value of it, and that there are issues that it would take me hours to explain. I probably don't understand them myself, relating to how Fannie Mae and other lenders do residential financing that haven't been resolved, that are getting resolved on the national level, and that I think would give more comfort to the banking industry. But that's all being worked out, so we'll see what happens in the long run. Yeah.
I'm Brenda Weaver with Kentucky Housing, and I would just add that while it excludes single-family residential, it does include or allow for ePAD to be used in any multifamily building that's over 4 units. And with a state that's full of aging multifamily properties that are at risk of coming off the multifamily list in the next several years, we and others are looking at this as a tool to do a lot of energy improvements to multifamily buildings, those buildings that are over 4 units.
Great point. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the other thing is that from a business standpoint, you're taking what's normally a capital expenditure and now you've got an operating expense, and that's kind of huge.
And this, most accountants say this is off budget, off the balance sheet. So I mean, it's it is again, the more you dig into it, the better it gets, which is unusual for many legislation.
Yeah, many businesses go through the annual budgeting cycle. They say we got X amount of dollars we can use for capital improvements, or communities or others that have to go, they have limits to their bond capacity are limited. This process allows for the ability to keep this as an operating expense and thus very favorable tax treatment in that. Other questions? If not, Jonathan, I want to thank you so much for being part of this.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So can I get Heather's help to go ahead and cue up Edye's presentation? I am pleased to introduce Edye Raymond. Edye is a certified energy manager with over 18 years experience in environmental engineering, auditing, and consulting experience in industries not only in the United States but Canada. Edye's auditing experience in regulatory compliance and risk management, energy efficiency, and system management helps her identify a business solution for her clients. Edye has conducted many audits, presented numerous trainings and workshops, and assisted in the implementation of ISO management systems in their facilities. During just the last 5 years, she's helped her clients identify over $2 million in energy savings. Edye is an ISO 14001, I'll let her explain what that is, a lead and internal auditor, a certified ISO 50001 energy management provisional auditor, and has completed the Green Manufacturing Specialist certification from Purdue University. It's my pleasure to introduce Edye Raymond.
Probably can make anyone sound good, can he? Can I have the clicker, please?
That's right there on top.
Oh, okay. Thanks. We've just had 2 great speakers talking about wonderful opportunities for you to save money at your organizations with some very large capital funding resources. And that's wonderful. And those are wonderful projects for you to have and implement. But what I want to take a step back and kind of go a different path today is to talk about some lower cost opportunities at your facility. Something I'm very passionate about is not just replacing your lights and that being the solo project, but how to make energy management an integral part of your management system, of your company. How to make it so it's continuously improving as your company grows. Not just a one and done project, but a continual part of how you make business decisions in your organization. So what we're going to talk about today is energy management systems. And one thing, well, the reason I'm very passionate about this is because it's applicable to any organization, whether you're a very small business or a very large industrial facility. You can apply the principles of an energy management system to your organization. You're simply including energy and looking at energy and all the different various steps of your company. You can customize your program the size of your business. If you have a very small business, you're going to have a very small program. If you have a very large company, you're going to have a very large program. And one thing that's very interesting is that it can have a very low investment. So if you're replacing all your lighting, you've got capital costs, which it's great that there's these resources out there. But I'm going to give you some examples of where you can make some energy changes, save you money, and have very low or no capital expenses put into your organization. One thing that can be hard to do, but is a good thing to do, is culture change. The people in this room Most of you are already environmentally friendly. You're sustainable people. But not in all organizations is that their focus. So maybe you just need to tweak your culture just a little bit. But some organizations, people have been doing, let's get an industrial facility. I work with many industrial clients. And that person has been doing that job for 20 years. He is awesome at that job. He knows how to run that equipment exactly as he's been told. And he's been doing it like that for 20 years. Now, he doesn't want someone to come in and say, well, at lunchtime, let's shut off all your conveyors because you don't need those to be running at lunchtime. You know, so that's a cultural change. But I can calculate, or you can calculate, how much you can save just by that small change. So what we're talking about here is doing a cultural type change. And interesting enough, the Department of Energy states you can save 2 to 10% of your total energy costs just by implementing an energy management system. Now, so for some of you, that could be a significant amount of money. I have one industrial client in Louisville that I was working with. We got their program halfway set up, not fully implemented, just halfway implemented, and in the first year, they saved 11% off their energy bill. Is that amazing? And that was with no capital expenses at all. It was some man hours. So there's some cost because the man hour could be doing something else. But what they realized was Friday afternoon, everyone wanted to get out of that building. And they went in on the weekends. Not only were there lights on, there were fans on. There was a 250 horsepower air compressor that was not needed running. And that's true with a lot of my commercial clients too. I have commercial clients that go in on the weekend. All the lights are left on, the computers are left on. So just by implementing a few changes and getting your employees aware of energy and how their job affects natural resources, you can make some huge changes and save you a lot of money without a lot of capital cost. So I want to talk about 2 different management systems you can look at. Now this is the Energy Star Guidelines for Energy Management. If you Google Energy Star, you'll get all this information. It's free. There's 7 steps for setting up the system. There's all kinds of free guidance if you want to go through doing this yourself. You can always have someone help you. And you can also just customize this to fit how your company, your organization implements programs at your facility. The biggest thing is management commitment. You know, all of your employees have a lot of tasks to do. Do you have any employees that are sitting around with nothing to do? Hope not, right? So when they go through on Monday and they decide what they're going to do that week, they look at the priority of their management. You know, what's most important to their management to get that done. If energy's on that list and you've given them an energy task, they're going to do that. If they do not see that energy efficiency is important to their management, then that's going to fall to the bottom of the list because they're going to take care of what their boss sees as important to look good for their boss. So management commitment is critical in having a good program at your system. The next step, you're going to be looking at the footprint of your organization, doing the energy audit, benchmarking it. What does that mean? Looking at it compared to some measurable values. So if you're an industrial facility, what's your energy compared to the widget you're making? If you're commercial, maybe it's compared to the square footage or for the climate change, for weather things. Because if a salesman comes in and sells you a great energy efficient product that you're going to be put in, and the following month you save 10% off your energy bill, are you going to know if it's because of that product or because your production was down 50%? Or you were closed for 2 weeks because of Christmas break, and so you weren't running as much energy. So you need a benchmark so you can determine whenever you are making improvements that you're actually getting what they say you're going to get. You're going to create an action plan, implement it, evaluate your progress, recognize all your different achievements, and then have a continuous improvement of that process. So that's one way. The other way, has everyone in here heard of ISO? Maybe you've heard of ISO 9000? 14,000, 9,000 is quality, 14,000 is environmental, 50,000 is an energy management system. You can get certified for this. have a nice big flag, have a plaque, just like with 9,000 and 14,000. Now with 14,000, many manufacturers required it of their suppliers. It's not being pushed as heavily yet in the US, but I do see it coming with many different organizations will require that. So what most of my clients are doing is they're setting up a system to meet the requirements of ISO 50000 and not actually paying to get certified just yet. Because there is quite a bit of expense when they come in to certify you and dealing with the auditors and the registration. But it's very similar. The outline of the standard is just identical almost to the different standards for energy, for environmental, and for quality. You start with the energy policy and management commitment, and then you go through the following steps of basically knowing what you have on site, looking at what you want to tackle, monitoring and measuring to see how those successes are, and continually improving. Another big thing with this one is management review, quarterly, annually, getting your management involved into your energy projects and looking at it. It also has a few little side portions of the standard that, depending upon what your company does, could be very beneficial, such as purchasing. When your company has a purchasing department, do they purchase the cheapest piece of equipment? Or do they look at the life cycle cost of how much energy is going to cost for that piece of equipment? Because what you might find is that equipment B might be slightly more, but your payback might be 1.5 years. So that could be true whether you're a commercial facility renovating your space, or if you're an industrial facility putting in large pieces of equipment or replacing a motor. Also, with regards to contractors coming on site, are they using your energy? Are they using energy efficient equipment when they're on site? So there's a lot of little parts in this standard that can give you savings without a large capital expense. I'm often asked, well, what are the low-cost programs that most people include in their program when they're going through that? Not all of these would be applicable to every person in this room, because I understand we've got a large variety of different clients here. But these are some pretty typical ones my clients tackle. Demand management. Demand is the instantaneous pull of energy at that moment, not your total amount for the year, but when you plug in everything, that exact pull of energy. Now, in a lot of organizations, especially industrial organizations, there are different rates associated with peak and non-peak demand cost. So by just moving an operation from one time period to the next, you're using the same amount of energy, but you may save significant amount of money. So looking at where that demand pull is could potentially save you a lot of money. Another one is shut-off, start-off procedures. Like I said, I had the one client that saved 11%. They had no idea how much energy they were using during off hours, weekends, holidays. This can also be good for your maintenance of your equipment, because when something's shut off, it's obviously not having as much wear and tear on there. Plug load management. Everything that's plugged in and has a little lights pulling electricity even when it's off. So if you have a commercial building and all your computers are left on, things are plugged in and it's pulling electricity at nighttime. Mini fridges fall in there. I did an audit at a commercial facility one time, and one floor of that building had a mini fridge for approximately every 4 people. Now I like to eat, and I like having food close to me. But do you understand the energy pull of a mini fridge for every 4 people in that whole floor of that commercial building? So what we were able to do is they created a kitchen center with one Energy Star refrigerator, and everyone learned to write their name and walk a few more steps. But we were able to calculate the tremendous amount of energy savings by removing 20-something mini fridge from one floor of a commercial building. And you know, those are the little things that you don't always think of. So that plug load management. And then preventive maintenance programs. Not all of you have air compressors at your facility. I could spend 30 minutes on the things you can do. That's why we picked kind of the management side of it. But compressed air, a very typical compressor has 30% leakage going on at any one time. That's typical. That's not a bad facility. That's like typical. So if you can fix your leaks and get it down to 10-15%, then your compressors are not working as hard and you're saving quite a bit of money just by that. I had one company that had so many leaks that when we fixed all the leaks, they were able to go from 250 horsepower compressors running all the time to 1 compressor. Okay, so there's no capital cost. There was manpower. They had to do maintenance. So those maintenance people were working on other things that at that time, but they were able to eliminate the use of that large piece of equipment. Your HVAC systems, if they're not being properly maintained, then they're not running efficiently. That's true for your commercial, for your industrial facilities, and then motors. A lot of times industrial clients will rebuild very large motors. Each time they rebuilt, they lose a little bit of efficiency. So having a motor management plan is another good one. So some outcomes of a successful implementation is hopefully a culture change. If your organization is already very sustainable, then you're just going to twerk that. But if you're not, this is a great opportunity to raise the awareness of your employees, to get them involved in understanding the energy, the natural resources that they utilize in their workspace, whether it's out in the field, whether it's inside in an office, or if it's in an industrial facility. I have clients that do food rewards. That seems to go really well for if they come in and all the offices are shut off at night and all the equipment's shut off. I have ones that do monetary awards. If a employee makes a recommendation that saves the company significant amounts of money. Because in an industrial facility, the people that are working in that plant know that process and probably have some amazing ideas on how you can change that process if they have the opportunity to give that information to you. Incorporating in all of your management decisions, how you're going to do operations, purchasing, building or process changes. If you're renovating your building, incorporate energy efficiency into the new equipment, the new processes you're going to be doing. Having a good system is wonderful for tracking and verifying savings. So once you do all these low costs, and you want to replace your lights, you want to replace your HVAC, and you want to reach out to REAP and all these other wonderful programs to get you some money, you have a system in place to implement that project and track and verify those savings internally, in addition to working with the company to help you. So I'm not giving you a huge pot of money for capital investment today, but I do want to let you aware of just by making some cultural changes in your organization, you can save a tremendous amount of money, and I've seen it with many of my clients, both commercial and industrial, and just wanted to bring that to you today.
Well, we're going to defer the questions until after our final speaker, so thank you so much, Edye. I appreciate it. I can't find my notes, but I'm going to wing it here in a minute because I know Frank pretty well. Oh, there. With my glasses. As you can tell, we are videotaping this presentation. We're going to get it hopefully out on YouTube at some point. We'll share that with all the participants, and we'll also share the contact information for all of our presenters today so that you can reach out directly to them. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Frank Austin, who's principal at Tax-Centric Lighting. He's a seasoned veteran and lighting practitioner, well-versed in energy and tax code as it relates to building efficiency of investments. Frank combines tax-centric lighting design with energy efficient lighting systems to maximize the first-year recovery of lighting upgrades. He's formerly Vice President of Energy Services Group at Phillips Light Lear. Frank was an architect of turnkey energy solution programs and many of the software programs used to create total finance business case use of tax-centric design and environmental analysis, and has managed several sales forces and built marketing programs to launch these initiatives. My pleasure to introduce Frank Austin.
Just start talking, we'll figure it out.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here today and talk to you about a subject that I am passionate about, which is energy efficiency. Now, my background, as you know from the introduction, has to do with lighting. However, the benefits of the program that I'm going to talk to you about today go beyond lighting. And the reason I'm passionate about this is someone said earlier, and I think it was Jonathan Miller, that no one's going to argue that they would like to have more energy efficiency in their building. The question always is, where am I going to get the money to fund this, which is a large part of this agenda here today. Well, the program that we're going to talk about today, it starts as a topic on your agenda called cost segregation. And when a building owner acquires or constructs a building, that building has an asset value. And for purposes of tax, that customer will write that building off over 39 years. They will depreciate it at 1/39th per year, and that is subtracted from their taxable income. So by now, what you probably have figured out is this strategy applies to those buildings or those owners who are in business for profit, because you have to pay taxes to take a tax deduction. Now, so a building owner will typically do a cost segregation study. The reason they do a cost segregation study is because if they can segregate some of that total building asset into shorter recovery periods, they can move some of the value of the assets out of 39 years and write them off over a shorter recovery, 5, 7, or 15 years typically. Now, there are varying degrees of cost segregation studies. Some customers or building owners won't do any. They'll just default and write the building off over 39 years. Some will do very in-depth studies so that they can maximize the early year deductions off that building asset. So, having said that, typically in our industry, we walk in and we have, in my case, it's lighting. It could be HVAC or any other equipment. We walk in and say, we have this low energy cost equipment that can replace your obsolete, inefficient system, and it comes at an investment. But it'll reduce your operating cost by some amount, so we divide the operating cost into the investment, we get a payback. And then we'll look for rebates or what other incentives might be available, and then we'll look at ways to finance the project. However, if everything in that building has a value, and you know that value, and you go in and you remove that asset, in my case it's lighting, it could be HVAC or it could be anything, you are removing something that has value. And let's say, for example, that you're in a building 10 years and you want to renovate it, and you have everything that you're writing off over 39 years, that asset has 29 years of write-off left on it. And if you remove it because it's energy inefficient and put some new equipment in its place, you have just retired an asset that has value. And so the government says if you have the proper treatment and accounting of all those assets, I'll let you write that off in this current year. So in my case, in lighting, for every 3 or 4 light fixtures I remove from a building, it pays the total installed cost of one new one. That's retiring the asset that comes out. To conduct a study that is detailed enough that the IRS will accept your study and allow you to write off assets, you should do what we call an integrated fixed asset analysis, where you send engineers into a building, and the engineers walk that building and do a detailed assessment of all of the assets that make up that building, from the carpeting to the wallpaper to the baseboard, chair rails, rooftop units, light fixtures, everything. And when they're done, the owner gets a book about an inch thick, and it has, as of today, here is the current remaining write-off value of all the assets in the building. And if that satisfies the requirements of the IRS, then when you get rid of those assets, you're allowed to write them off. But when you do the detailed analysis, we will always find some assets that have nothing to do with the renovation. They're in 39 year, but because we now have the detail, we can move them by doing a change of accounting method. We can move them out of 39 year into a 5, 7, or 15 year and accelerate depreciation in the current year. Now, for lighting projects, I can tell you that we will write off 60 to 100% of a turnkey lighting upgrade in the first year. It's called maximum recovery of the investment in year 1. This is about. So, if someone has a $100,000 lighting upgrade and we find $100,000 of tax benefit, reduce their tax liability by $100,000, then they pay us the $100,000 for the lighting, but it's offset by the tax liability reduction of $100,000. Now, if you do this and then you combine it with financing or grants and you find other ways to use the operating savings to pay down the investment, in many cases the owner will not have to come out of pocket with cash. So this is an overview of what we do. It starts with cost segregation, moves into an integrated fixed asset analysis. And I apologize, we don't have the slides up. So I'm doing this a little bit out of memory here. But this is what we do. So, very simply, you touch an asset in a building that belongs to an owner who has a tax liability, you're likely removing something that has write-off value. And if you don't write it off today, let's say that you're in there 10 years, you'll write off a ghost asset for the next 29 years, where the government would have allowed you to do it today. And these benefits can offset the investment to upgrade your lighting or your HVAC significantly. That's all I have for right now.
Yes.
Thank you. Can I have you point something else out that I'm aware of? Once that tax write-off or that building efficiency happens, those are two different sources of continual revenue, or continual advantage to the building owner, right? Can you speak to that real quickly?
Right, so I believe what Colin is saying is if you make an investment to remove obsolete equipment that's energy inefficient, you replace it with efficiency, the repeatable benefit is the operating cost savings. It repeats itself every day, every quarter, every year. The write-off from the removing the assets or reallocating assets to shorter recovery is a tax liability reduction that funds the investment. So you might not be out of pocket cash, but that benefit, as you know, from energy efficiency continues to repeat itself every day you're in operation. Okay? That's it, Bob.
Okay. Thank you.
I hope you all enjoyed my slides.
Yes. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
I'm going to call on Heather to introduce our next speaker. She's also going to be, the next speaker is also going to be at the USGBC Lunch and Learn a little later. So if you stick around for both, you might hear. But I know not everyone is going to stay, and we want to hear from her. Heather.
Yeah, sorry, our computer decided it needed to update right in the middle of that. Rhonda Truman is here with LG&E and KU. She has been with them for 31 years. Her current position is Program Manager for the Commercial Rebate Program. She oversees the day-to-day operations and administration of the Commercial Rebate Program. Previous experience with LG&E and KU includes various positions in Supply Chain Department, Senior Support Analyst for Transaction Efficiency, Sourcing Leader for Goods and Services, Project Team Leader, Inventory Analysis, and Buyer. She received her MBA from Indiana Wesleyan and attended Purdue University for her undergraduate work in sociology and psychology. She has volunteered with many organizations, including Salvation Army, Project Warm, Habitat for Humanity for Women, Everyone Reads, and a sponsor for the middle school and support program. So please welcome Rhonda.
Hi. Hello, everyone. Thank you. I'm gonna turn this up a little bit. How's everyone today? I'm with LG&E and KU, and we have, this falls in line right with your group, with what you're speaking about today, energy efficiency rebates, commercial rebates for commercial customers. And you might say, well, what is a commercial customer? And who are you talking about? I don't know if my customers are or not. We have three types of customers. We have residential, your home, we have commercial, and then we have manufacturing or industrial. So if you're not your home, a residential, or a manufacturing, you're going to be commercial. And commercial includes municipals, includes schools, includes offices, includes everything in between, basically. And you can check on your bill too, check your account, it'll say commercial. Or you can call our business service office to make sure. But what we want to make sure you understand is that all commercial customers are eligible for commercial rebates. This program was set up to help basically provide incentives to customers who have implemented more energy efficient equipment, who have retrofitted lighting, AC units, motors, pumps, VFDs, chillers. So we want to try to help not maybe offset, but help to incentivize that if you've installed this type of equipment or lighting, we want to give you incentives for that. Okay. All right. Basically, you might say, well, why would LG&E, whose main source of revenue is electricity, gas, selling it, why would they want to give incentives for people who install more energy efficient equipment? And what we have found, basically, is that all customers want to try to conserve. It's a way that your energy costs usually hit your bottom line. So they're looking for ways to reduce their bottom line. Even though our area has very low rates, everyone's always looking for a way to reduce their costs. Plus, it's the right thing to do, as we've learned, and we're very, very aware of. It's the right thing. Make good use of your resources. But also at LG&E, if we can reduce our usage right now and our demand, which is what our program is based on peak demand in our summers are our peak times. If we can reduce that demand, that means we don't have to have supply, and we don't have to have those power plants available, that energy available for that peak time. And if we can reduce that down, that in turn reduces the need for that capacity, to build a new unit or to keep a unit running full out. So we found that by offering the commercial program helps to maybe offset some of those costs, or helps to recognize that we are reducing demand and we don't need demand at those times. And then we want to give that incentive back to those customers who have installed that lighting and equipment. So it's a balancing act. Many states require energy conservation, and they put amounts on it. Right now in Kentucky, we don't have that. LG&E and KU try to get ahead of that, set up our own programs ahead of time so we could recognize that and help customers with these efforts. Our program is also available to all LG and KU customers throughout the state. Some people say, well, you're in Louisville, Rhonda. Is it just LG&E? No, it's all LG and KU customers throughout the state, commercial customers. Basically, to date, we've rebated $8 million. We started this program back in 2008, and to date, we've rebated over $8 million. When you apply for rebates, we have rebates that are retroactive, which is, I like this feature of the program. Our program was approved in 2008. If you have customers or you yourself have installed, as we went over the rebate categories, the lighting, the AC, the motors, pumps, VFDs, chillers, if you've installed any of this equipment since April 1st, 2008, you can apply now for rebates. We will need your proof of payment, some documentation, some spec sheets maybe, or we can work with your contractor or if you're a contractor for your customer, however you want to do that. But we'll need some documentation. But if they have installed since April 1st, 2008, we can check if they're eligible. Basically, if they've installed something more efficient, we have minimum requirements in all of our equipment for efficiency. they are eligible for rebates. And this program is going forward to 2018. So we're here from 2008, April 1st, 2008, all the way going forward to 2018. So you can plan for your future too. I mentioned we have the traditional lighting, AC, motor pump, VFD chillers, but we also have custom rebates. Custom rebates were approved in 2011, November 2011. So if you've installed an energy management system or equipment that doesn't fall in those categories I just mentioned, but you've saved energy, tell us about it. Tell us how, give us a spreadsheet, show us what your energy savings were, show us what you installed, give us a spec sheet, why you installed it. Surely, the distributor gave you some information why you installed that piece of equipment. Let us know. We'll look at it and hopefully give you a custom rebate. That is $100 per KW. We base everything on KW, not KWH. So if you have anything falling into those categories. Coming soon, which was approved November 14th, 2014, we have new construction rebates. And those are, if you've built a new building and you went above state code with efficiency, we have rebates available for that based on your square footage and based on whether you're 10% all the way up to 25% above state code on your efficiency. So they're available as of November 14th, 2014. We don't quite have them up in our system, ready to go, but once they're ready, we'll be able to process. So if you have a new account, a new building, as an account number assigned to that after November 14th, 2014, then we're going to be, and you built above state code, then we're going to have rebates available for that. We also have rebates coming for LEED certification. And that'll be for your new buildings that we just discussed, and also your existing buildings. If you've done major renovations on a building and you've applied for LEED certification, we have rebates for that also. Okay, it depends on how many points you received, and that would be in category 1 under energy and atmosphere. Okay, we're gonna have rebates available for that, and that is if you received your certification after November 14th, 2014. Okay, this will be on our website soon. Always want to check our website to keep updated, but that'll be on our website soon. And I'll have business cards I'll leave up here. You can just take my business card and drop me an email. We also will have a new rebate that's coming. If you have an audit performed on your building, we're going to rebate that audit up to $3,000. 25% of your cost up to $3,000. Okay. We had in the past offered commercial audits free of charge. And in lieu of that, now we're going to basically offer it as a rebate to you, to your customer, or to you. One thing I want to remind everyone of with our new rebates that are coming and with the existing rebates is that some people say, oh, rebates, that sounds great, that's money. And then you get into a little bit of paperwork. And everybody goes, whoa, especially 2008, 2009, going back. We will work with you and try to help you through that process. We're trying to streamline it as much as possible, but we do need some documentation. So it's worth the effort. And again, all of our requirements are on our website, or you can call me and I can send you the information. But it is worth the effort. But just be prepared. It is a little bit of effort to go digging back in your paperwork, but it's well worth it. And we will work with you as much as possible to get that started. All right. If you want to apply, you want to get started, you can either there's an 800 number on our website. Just go to our website, www.lge-ku.com. Okay. You can, if you have an account or your customer has an account set up on my account, they can apply online, or you can contact me, and we'll get enrollment started. Just a final word, I want to remind everyone of our residential, if you live in our service territory, of our residential energy efficiency programs. We have the demand conservation switch, which is June right now. is our summer season. We're getting very close. We have a program to help you conserve or help us conserve, and there's a credit for that. There's home energy rebates for your Energy Star appliances that I think many people are taking advantage of. So that program is in effect till 2018. All these programs are in effect till 2018. So please take advantage of them. We also have our residential audit services that's still available.
She'll go through a lot more detail there during our lunch presentation. We'll open it up for questions then. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Excellent. We've got one more speaker, and then we're going to really go into one of the most important parts of today's session is hearing back from you and prioritizing some goals and things that this organization needs to address in the future. It's now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Richard Shore, goes by Dick. He is a PhD in zoology from Duke University in 1963. He has an MBA from the University of Toledo in 1974. His MBA is in operation analysis, and his work is focused on both ecology and economics. He is a certified quality engineer, and his parallel career capacity has served in both industrial and government organizations. Dr. Shore was born in the shadow of John Muir, who was America's most famous and influential naturalist and conservationist and founder of the Sierra Club. As a boy, Dr. Shore hiked and camped in Yosemite and valleys throughout the West Coast. Dr. Shore's lifelong passion for theater has enhanced his John Muir presentation, which he has given all over the United States and has reached over 31,000 people since 1987. It's a pleasure. Come on up, Dick and
Gee, I thought I was representing KCC today. I didn't bring my flyers for my own personal work today, but I appreciate that invitation, that introduction. It does put things in context. I mean, what's a bench biologist from Duke doing as an industrial engineer, working for large multinational corporations or the government, saving money, and then was a lobbyist, and now he's on the board of KCC. Anyway, my job. First, I have some handouts for you.
Here we go with that.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I knew I had a pen here. I put it where I wouldn't miss it. Kentucky Conservation, are we live here?
Yes.
You hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. If it turns out at some point you can't hear or can't understand, just give me the old ear sign and I'll see what I can do for that. Kentucky Conservation Committee has been around for quite some years. I was actually a lobbyist for it in 01, 2, and 3, representing to the Senate. It grew out of a number of citizen organizations, folks like the Audubon Society and the Sierra Club and League of Women Voters, people across the state who were concerned about government action that influenced environmental things in various different ways. And we've always had a strong influence in two different directions, one having to do with preservation of wild places, and so to support the work of the Kentucky State Natural Resources Commission, for example, with setting aside lands and that sort of thing. But we've also had a strong focus on preventing outright destruction. And so the Stream Saver Bill, for example, that KFTC has been pushing all these years, has been high on our priority as well. And now that we have a really live wire full-time director in the form of Lane Goldman, we realize that there is another constituency that's out there whose bills we have been pushing all this time, and that's you folks who are not. Yes, you do have a house, and yes, you do walk, and yes, you eat, and all that sort of thing. But you also have businesses, or you serve businesses, and we realize that there are bills that we are concerned about that we thought you would be concerned about as well. So part of my job today is to offer the possibility that Kentucky Conservation Committee is the place to go for information about bills that are interesting to you. And I want to highlight a few. The handout lists some bills that we've been monitoring this time around. Some things we really work hard on, some things we watch, some things we really work hard to get them go on. Let's talk about these. The first on the list, this ePAD, you had a lengthy discussion of, so I'll not touch on that, other than to say, yes, there it was on our list, and this is one of the things that we were working on. We have two people in Frankfurt, and it looks like we will have two people in Frankfurt again next session. We have a professional lobbyist, and we also have Lane Boldman, our executive director, and she's been doing a lot of lobbying as well. And so the two of them play tag, or sometimes both together. The lobbying that we do, I think, is best characterized as providing the straightest possible information we can about the consequences of either doing or not doing that particular bill. We don't have large quantities of money to provide campaign funds. And we don't have identifiable huge bodies of voters that will guarantee turnout. And it's difficult to quantitate the economic impact of the having clean air to breathe, and having water that's safe to drink, and having food that you'd want to feed your kids. This is very, very difficult to quantitate. And so what we do is provide the straightest possible information that we can. And we think that that's a good service. There are others that we work with. We try to get colleagues wherever we can get them, when they can cooperate on the same things that we're on. And we look forward to working with your presence in Frankfurt as well. Okay, the Public Benefit Corporation. This was House Bill 11. To have a corporation that is chartered specifically to do some good work, and thus its board of directors is responsible not only for providing some return on investment to the stockholders, but specifically to do this public work. There have been some suits brought in the past when for-profit corporations tried to do something which one of their major stockholders thought would decrease the value of their stock, but it was really good for the community. And so this is an effort to simply bypass that and say, yes, these corporations, as some corporations were in the beginning, were set up to do a good public work, and we want to have corporations like that now. Rehabilitation tax credit provides an opportunity to fix things up and have that recognized in the tax credits, and there were procedures that were set up to try and make that happen. The smoking ban, certainly controversial, has a direct impact on businesses, partly because it affects whether or not your employees are going to be exposed to side stream smoke and have medical costs associated with that. partly because there's a bunch of people say, don't tell me what I'm going to do inside my business. But this was one of the bills that we were pushing for its health benefits. The land bank. Land banks have had a mixed review. I was reading some history on land banks. In the early days, land banks were scams. There's a lot of land in Florida that was sold underwater, under the guise of land banks. But there's been a resurgence of interest in them with additional constraints putting on them. And it appears like it's a good way for local jurisdictions to facilitate getting abandoned or neglected or empty property back on the tax rolls and get it productive. And we thought that was something that was worth pushing to make that happen. The Clean Energy Opportunity Act has a couple of things in it. One was the renewable portfolio standard. The idea that there would be a list of categories of sources of energy that would be used for generating electricity, and that some of these are renewable in the short term, and some of them are renewable on the 160 million year time frame, so not really renewable. But that we as a community would say we want our electricity generated at least in part from the renewable resources. And this would provide an opportunity then for the electric generators to go ahead and use the renewable resources to a larger extent than they are. That was part of what was in that bill. And finally, the energy efficiency reinvestment aimed at in large investments in energy efficiency. I looked up the status of these bills, and a lot of them were introduced and moved to a committee, and then they died. Moving to a committee is a technique that the leadership in the legislature uses. And there are some favorite committees to which bills go to die. So part of what we can do together is to make sure that when the bill gets to a committee that it doesn't just die there. And that's part of what we do, and we look forward to working with our colleagues to make sure that we can make it very clear these bills need to be moved out of committee and moved on. And at that, I think I will terminate my remarks. I understand there'll be another opportunity for me to field your questions. I look forward to working with you.
Thank you so much. We're going to get into the really one of the important parts of today's session. One of the things that we've got feedback from, and in your packets, is an information for participant survey. So we really want you to fill that out. One of the things that we got in feedback from our January 15th meeting is because of time, and as you saw, I was trying to keep the time moving here, so we got through all the speakers. We didn't really explain what KySBC was and what our goals. This is a good transition because Dick's presentation talked about specific legislation that just died. And the real key to getting legislation passed is starting now, working in the interim committee process and getting legislators familiar. I know Heather had mentioned something early on in the process about what we're going to do is find a way to help disseminate information and get you engaged. What legislators listen to most is job creation. And we've already talked about some of the things, the ePAD and other things that are going to create jobs. Saving people money, saving business money so they can hire more people or keep the ones they have are very important. So I'm going to deviate 1 second, then I'm going to call on Heather to go into ASBC. But I'd like to take a moment and just go around the room and have you give me your name and the organization, not necessarily what you do, just name the organization so that as we get to the next phase, everyone will know who's in the room.
Steve Ricketts, Solar Energy Solutions. Tom Brooks-Billing, Solar Energy Solutions.
Robert Chatham, Solar.
Clive Paul, Architecture. Frank Austin, Tax-Centric Lighting.
Matt Hardy-Miller, Solar Energy Solutions.
Edye Raymond, S2E2 Consulting.
Brenda Weaver, Kentucky Housing Corporation.
Ken Slattery, Kentucky Housing Corporation.
Colleen Crum, KySBC.
Johnny Bowler, Earthwell Energy Management.
Ginger Watkins, Orb Studio.
Skylar Warren, Bluegrass Green Source.
Kenya Stump, Kentucky Department for Energy Development and Independence.
What's your title?
Assistant Director, Renewable Energy.
Okay.
Dick Shore, Board Member, Kentucky Conservation Committee.
I'm Bill Ellsworth, State Energy Office.
Ruth Billings, Board Member, Kentucky Waterways Alliance. Karen Coe, CPA, tax consultant, and a partner with Bedford Cost Segregation.
And John Boyd, Energy Services Coalition.
Amy Striegel, Destiny Connections Business Consulting. Racy Green, Century Mortgage Company.
Henry Jackson, Sustainability Planning Consultant.
Mark Warmsburg, I'm Arboretum and Research Forest.
Keith Tate, Eastern Kentucky University.
Mayor? Mayor in the back there?
Bob Christensen, Mayor of Sadie.
Nancy Church, Kentucky U.S. Green Building Council.
Billy Hardin, Kentucky Community and Technical College System.
Scott Southall, CDP.
Jed Lakshmi, I'm an architect.
Rhonda Truman, LGD and KU.
Deborah Payne with Kentucky Environmental Foundation.
And we miss you two here.
Oksana Grishek, intern at Kentucky Environmental Foundation.
Chase Burroughs, Architect.
Thank you so much for coming today. We're going to turn it over to Heather to move into ASBC, and then we're going to open it up to get your feedback on what do we need to be focusing our energies on during this interim session for the next big session that's coming up in January.
So we are going to come back around to our connectivity to the American Sustainable Business Council. And in just a short moment, we're going to watch the Voices of ASBC video that you see there. And you can kind of see the definition of the ASBC is leading businesses advocacy, is a leading business advocacy group working to implement public policies that build a sustainable economy. And then we'll hear about that in just a second. I wanted to quickly go over the sort of 5-step strategy that ASBC has for building a sustainable economy. Number 1 of that is to mobilize business leaders to promote solutions through policy and administrative action. Number 2 is to design and execute advocacy campaigns that support a sustainable economy. Number 3, we plan to draw media attention to businesses and policies that encourage sustainable growth. Number 4, we want to challenge the conventional wisdoms that pit businesses against other stakeholders in society, offering innovative approaches that benefit all stakeholders. And number 5, we want to provide research to illustrate how businesses and governments are changing the paradigm with new solutions based on triple bottom line thinking. So ASBC has been in operation since 2009. As I mentioned before, they now have over 200,000 members. They have over 300,000 individual members. So I'm going to let Bobby show you this short video, and then we'll wrap up. We hope. We always have fun with technology. I don't think we're going to be able to get it to work. We have it plugged in, but it's, well, it was.
Can you put the mic down on the computer?
We're going to try that, but the volume on the, we had to borrow their computer this morning because of some special cables, and it's just been going as you've all seen. Quite choppily. We have this plugged into the sound system, but it does not appear to be connecting.
Well, he plugged it in right there.
Okay. Can you go up and get Tom and see just if you can grab him? If we can get Tom to come down and figure this out, we'll move ahead. But needless to say, you guys all have access to the internet, and you can watch this 2-minute video when you leave our illustrious meeting today. I'm so sorry about the technology difficulties. Yes, we can send a link to you. So I want to go over just a couple of quick organizational things before we move on to eating, because the food is here and it looks amazing. We are planning for the Kentucky Sustainable Business Council to have 4 meetings a year, 1 each quarter. Right now, this year, we're planning to do 1 in Louisville and 1 in Lexington. So start in Louisville, come to Lexington. So our next quarterly meeting will be in Louisville again. And then the last quarterly meeting for the year will be in Lexington. Next year, our plan is to go a bit more regionally throughout the state and probably go to Bowling Green, Louisville, Lexington, and Pikeville are sort of our initial thoughts at this point, because we see some traction in all of those cities towards environmental activists and advocacy. So we only hope to get you 4 times a year. Sometimes you might have to travel just a little bit to get there. We plan to sort of increase the amount of education opportunities available to maybe a whole day for people that do take the time to travel to those locations. You always can come for as little or as long as you'd like to be there. And we'd also like to know what other things you'd like to learn about. So our first meeting was sort of a legislative 101 wrap up. We had John Yarmouth come. It was very, very, very good meeting. And this one we decided we wanted to do a little bit of an energy focus. So the next one, we're just going to sort of send out a poll after this meeting on a few topics that we've been throwing around in steering committee and see where the interest lies. And then we will try to create an educational event around that. The last meeting of the year will probably be a legislative preview of what we're going to get ready for in the legislative session for 2016. And then in the beginning of next year, it will probably be a legislative rundown, because we'll sort of be in it at the next meeting. So that's really all we're going to ask of you in terms of traveling time and investment throughout the rest of the year, is just 2 more meetings. We want to make these as informative and as educational as we can for you. If you know of any organizations that are green leaning or sustainability leaning, please let them know about our group and what we're trying to do. If you are interested in volunteering or playing a role in the steering committee or board, we would love to have you as well.
Take this forward.
And we're going to try one more time. Let's cross our fingers, everybody together.
Sustainability is 100% consistent with taking care of employees, supporting local communities, and protecting our natural resources.
Companies that join ASBC today find that they have a unique opportunity policy process.
You really hear it? You guys hear it?
We can't really hear it. Let's just let it go. Sometimes you just gotta move on. So if you have already signed up for lunch, that's fantastic. If you haven't, I have a little extra food. Please just let me know. We don't want to run you off. Please feel welcome to stay. We're going to go ahead and move on to sort of take a little break right now. Let people get some food, get some drinks.
Can we do one more thing?
We'll wait. Bobby wants one more thing.
One more thing, because I informed you just a minute ago. What we'd like to do, I know we're going to get your survey results, but I'd like to go around the room for like 3 or 4 minutes and get some feedback, because I want to put on the board over here, what are some important issues that we need to be? Again, we're going to listen to your and read your stuff, but for the group's benefit, would like to get some input. So what are some of the important things we should write down here that KySBC should be looking at? Nancy?
A look at some of the sustainability reporting that companies are doing in the form of 100 and 118 page reports, like Lexmark and UPS, and even Ernst & Young has some thought leadership out there about how companies report on their initiatives and results.
Okay, so it'd be CSR type reports, okay? Yes? Billy.
Somebody mentioned it earlier that in order to get the legislators' attention, you have to talk about jobs. And that's very true. And I think that's true also for the higher education sector as well. If we had a great idea or a general idea of what the green jobs are out there and how they're being defined by the business sector, that would be very helpful to us in terms of programming and moving our own individual sustainability programming forward.
Great, Billy, thank you. What else?
Bobby, on that same topic, there was a study that was just recently published by, I hate to say this word in this state, Duke University.
You got an alum right there.
On green jobs and their impact in the last couple of years. So there's a report out there.
Okay. All right, who else? Yes, Kenya.
I think one topic that we might see would be how we increase choices around renewable energy to our commercial and industrial businesses. Diversity. We'll just, right now, mostly residential customers are taking advantage of net metering because of the cap, and I'm not saying net metering couldn't be one of those choices, but I think we have to have a discussion about how we increase the opportunities for renewable energy for our businesses.
Great comment, and for the record, for the group, net metering was a high priority for this group. There was interest in introducing a bill, but it became very clear it was dead on arrival, and more work needed to be done internally, and that's what we're going to do in June through the end of this year. There are a number of legislators and senators that are very interested in doing this, but right now, for your benefit, if you don't know, currently we're limited to 30 kilowatt of net metering. So you can put a solar panel on and you can give back 30 kilowatts to the grid, but that's it. There's no incentive, especially for businesses, to invest the way they need to. And can you use the word diversification? One of the challenges that we have in the Commonwealth, because we've experienced very, very low energy costs for so many years. Our industrial capacity was built on low energy costs. We have over 250,000 manufacturing jobs in the Commonwealth. As energy costs go up, I believe they're going to end up going up higher in Kentucky than in the other states. And what's going to happen is business and industry is going to look at, well, if I just move my plant here or move my plant there and take their jobs with me, it's more efficient for me to do that. So we've got some real serious challenges. What else? Yes, Henry.
Two items. I didn't hear any discussion about benchmarking and tracking utility bills. Portfolio Manager is a free program that's online, it's nationally benchmarked. And just taking a look at 2 years past bills, tremendous indication that if you go to an ESCO company, they can really make some good comments. But anyhow, that's sort of an afterthought. Then the second thing would be, and I don't know much about this topic, and I haven't done a Google search, but saving success stories. One of the things that I try to stress repeatedly is that once you've retired, whatever that loan is, when your return on investment is completed, you then end up saving money beyond that period. And you save it at an increasing rate as energy costs go up, like you were just sort of indicating. And I think it would be persuasive to a lot of people that are making business decisions to be able to understand that it's not just the investment. It's once you retire that cost, you're then saving money at an increasing cost for the true usable life of that product. Anyhow, that's
a good point. And I presented last week, I guess it was, at the Kentucky Association of Manufacturers Energy Conference. And one of the things I talked about was the REAP grant. And as I said, that's limited to just rural areas of 50,000 population or less. Well, one thing I said in my presentation, I said, but I know Toyota's here, I know other manufacturers are here, and they're really looking for their suppliers to do the same thing they did this year for less, with energy costs and everything else going up. So even if you are in an urban area, if you know people in other areas, talk to those businesses that are buying goods and services from others and tell them about REAP and get the word out. Thank you, Henry. Yes, sir.
I don't know if it's possible, but I'd be curious how tax reform might affect the conservation dialogue, or how we can be in that dialogue on tax reform.
Yeah, I don't know how it would work either, but ideally, if one of the things that didn't pass in the legislature was extension of the renewable energy tax credit. So is that what it's called, Robbie? Or something like that?
It's a $500, $1,000.
Yeah, $500, $1,000. It went away. The state was subsidizing, or maybe $2 million or $3 million. Yeah. About $3 million, encouraging people to invest in solar and other renewables. That went away. So you're exactly right. One of the debates and discussions needs to be how tax policy and tax reform, which is desperately needed, regardless of your ideology or what you want to believe in, it's very needed. But how do we incorporate into that incentives that are actually help us make changes? Karen.
That's an excellent point, because on the federal level, they are going to incorporate some low-hanging fruit into the tax reform bills to get tax reform started. So some of these provisions that are temporary provisions out there, we'll see them as permanent provisions in the tax reform bill, but we won't see but we're going to be looking to the extender bill to extend a lot of the energy-related issues. The topic that I would like to add to that, and it kind of ties into CSR, is the triple bottom line accounting and how we measure and validate. It's easy for us to measure the profit side and the financial side as accountants, but how we measure the people side and the planet side and the effect of that, and how we communicate that and report that in our annual reports and things like that, because there's a huge struggle in the communication.
Yeah, as Edye pointed out, just management saying this is a priority is significant, and it begins to change culture to how to turn off your computer and do the small things that add up to a lot. Two more suggestions, and we'll break so we can network. Yes, ma'am.
I think everyone here has the ability to have an influence in our community. It would be nice maybe if we could talk about how we can also have an impact with consumers and residents, our neighbors, whether somebody runs a small business or a larger business. It's important that we still, focus on sustainability, not just in the workplace, but in the home, in the community, in our churches, in our schools. So I'd like to see you kind of dive about that.
Excellent, Amy. One more. If not, please fill out your participant survey. List as many as you want. We're going to get information back out to you. As Heather said, we're not going to bombard you all the time with stuff, but please reach out to us and let us help guide us, because this is a participatory organization. Business leaders, as Heather pointed out, are busy and they got to run their business. And sometimes they are very passionate about different activities and different things, but don't know what's going on or how they can help, and that's the purpose of our organization. With that, thank you, everyone. Thank you.